Ladies and gentlemen, allow us to reintroduce the third member of our three ball here, Henny Koyak, after the longest vacation in the world, beyond the fairway. Will Lowery, Doug Smith, Henny Koyak. I'm messing with you, Henny, but we got Henny back in here from across the pond. Henny, you've been busy since the Open Championship, man. How's life?
I have, yeah. Firstly, it's amazing to be back. I've missed you guys. I had the pleasure of seeing Mr. Will Lowery in person at the Tour Championships. We had a very fun evening. I introduced him to True Food Kitchen. We're both veggie, and so I was shocked that you'd never had True Food Kitchen before.
Yeah,
but
we got one here in Scottsdale, cuz we could have.
I didn't know that. That tells you how great of a host Doug is.
I cook for you. What you talking about? Anyway,
you cook meat that I don't eat.
That's they cook me meat. Anyway, moving on. I was happy to see Doug. I haven't had the pleasure of seeing you in person, but we FaceTime, we speak. So it's just
like
very honored. I'm always honored when I get a chance to be on the podcast when I'm asked like an hour before recording. That just always makes me feel good, and I've been feeling really wanted despite the fact that I'm busy. And it's just lovely to be back.
You know what? Let's go ahead and air this out right now, Henny, because I do recall somebody went on holiday and then also never let anybody know they was off a holiday. So as far as Will and I are concerned, you just got off vacation. So
yeah, I mean you got your seatbelt on. We think you just left.
Okay, for anyone who hasn't, if this is your first time listening, over here in England we are very strict about holiday protocols. So when you go on vacation,
aka vacation,
yes, when you go on vacation, I'm not lifting one work finger. Do not call me, do not text me. I do not exist to you until I am back. Which Doug and Will first thought I was joking when I first did this. They were like, what? Like, you really didn't answer? And I'm like, no, I told you I was on holiday. So the next time I went, I gave them my dates. And then, my bad, when I got back, I just assumed that you would know that, I'm back. But then they didn't. And so, anyway, now I'm back.
All right.
Guess who's back again.
Wow.
I have had a very... You didn't see that coming, did you? Yep.
No, didn't see the Eminem with the shoulder shimmy coming.
On your toes.
Will's face says it all right now.
Nothing has changed in the last 8 weeks. You should know, and really everyone should know this, that I am an embarrassment to myself at all times. So that just proves it right there. If there's a situation where someone's going to say something weird, do something weird, or trip over or spill something, I'm your girl. But anyway, it's been a very, very busy 6 weeks, but I have been listening into the podcast and I've been really enjoying the stuff that you guys have been putting out, the conversations that you've been having.
It's still our podcast, so all three of us. Sometimes we know we do the substitution thing because so many times I can't make it. I'm like, hey, I need you to jump in. But yes, since
must be nice.
We are on our way to speaking to this awesome guest we had. Henny, bring him in. Introduce him, please.
I am so honored to introduce the guest that we've been talking about since we first started conceptualizing, the three of us doing this podcast together. I'm genuinely disappointed that I couldn't be a part of this conversation. But you guys had an incredible chat with the first Black president of the USGA, Mr. Fred Perpall.
Beyond the Fairway podcast, me and Will, man, very, very excited to welcome in CEO of Beck, as well as the president of the USGA, Mr. Fred Perpall. Fred, thank you so much for taking time. Come in here, go beyond the fairway right here with us.
Well, good to be with you guys, and so appreciative of everything you all are doing to bring a different voice to golf, to open up golf to a different audience, and to bring a great and different perspective. So really fun to be with you all this morning.
When you speak on a different perspective, and I kind of want to just dive right in, as taking this position with the USGA, how much does USGA count on you to provide maybe perhaps a different perspective?
Yeah, look, I would say the USGA is like many organizations in golf. We're on this journey, of growth, and this journey, in terms of opening our bandwidth. And when I joined the USGA executive committee, which is essentially our leadership board, 2018, 2019, you could feel like this curiosity in terms of, how do we include more people? How do we keep opening the game up? How do we bring younger people in? Because, frankly, when I joined the board, I was 42, and that was pretty young for an executive committee member. So I feel like, I've tried to bring my authentic self, my experience in the game, which, I've been pretty direct that I started playing golf after my basketball career was over. So I came to golf later in life, which brings, the perspective of someone who's new to golf. I grew up in the middle of an inner city neighborhood, so I did not come from a background where golf was available to me or even known to me, until I got out of college and into my professional career. So a lot of the perspective I've tried to bring is really my authentic perspective. And I think along with our other 14 colleagues on the executive committee, as well as our management team, we each bring a different point of view on golf. And if we can mix that all in and we have, sort of people who've had different perspective, then we have a broader bandwidth. We can see the game more fully from more vantage points, and hopefully we can serve it a little more better.
Well, okay, coming from outside in, right? I've never been, Will and I don't think I've ever been outside of golf. I picked up a club when I was 4 years old, and I've been this damn thing ever since. But what I'm interested to know, when you come into golf, especially executive level, USGA, outside the game, when you came in, what did you actually see? Like, what were the first things you saw that either needed to be addressed or that you were just like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. Well, I would say, like, there are two things for me in golf, right? Like, one, the first time I tried to play golf was really in the Tiger explosion. So in 1997, 98, I finished undergrad, went to grad school, finished grad school around 98. And Tiger, the same time I was getting out of grad school as a 22-year-old, Tiger was bursting on the scene. And so, like many people my age, in the young 20s, we all went and bought golf clubs and tried to play golf, right? And there were a couple of things for me, because I was still in the middle of playing a lot of pickup basketball, a lot of night league basketball. Like, I didn't really make the time. But immediately, as a 20-something-year-old trying to learn how to play golf, it was apparent to me that, one, it was very expensive. So relative to playing basketball, where you needed some gym shoes and a buddy with a basketball, you needed to buy all this equipment. There was all this code, right? Like, all this language and rules and etiquette that someone who had not grown up in that environment had to learn. So it was very intimidating. And then 3, it was not accessible. So there was nowhere in town Dallas where you can go play golf that was, available and apparent. I mean, we had 2 public courses, but they frankly were in the middle of the most dangerous neighborhood in Dallas, where one has to make a choice about their own physical safety and playing golf. Or it was extremely private and expensive. We had one public driving range that was always overcrowded. So it's just difficult to get into the game in my 20s. So I took like 10 years off and became a senior executive. And then when I had more resources and could join a club, I came back to golf in my mid to late 30s. And so coming into golf, even as a very accomplished executive, there was still a lot of intimidation joining a private club, like not knowing the language, not knowing how to dress, being the first and only African-American member of a prestigious club.
And how tall are you, by the way?
I'm 6'6", but when I joined Northwood Club, they'd never had an African-American member, and this club hosted the 1952 U.S. Open. So finding ways to be comfortable in an environment where no one looks like you, where no families look like you, like all these things were things that, for me, I just had to lean into. And credit to all of the members of Northwood that welcomed me in. I had a couple close friends who were sort of way showers for me, that literally were patient to play golf with me when I was a brand new golfer, to show me the ropes, to teach me a little bit about, the etiquette, the rules and traditions. And so as a 37-year-old, I embarked on this challenge of learning how to play golf. When I like to say, when basketball had left me, I picked up golf. But I recognized that few people have those broad relationships across racial backgrounds. And I had the advantage of having a lot of strong relationships through my career that would be patient enough to actually help me integrate myself into the game at a younger age. But yes, there's a whole language, there's a lot of barriers, and there's a comfort and cultural barrier, I think, that for me, I had to personally overcome to get, engaged in the game.
But what, Fred, there's things where, going back to the personally overcome, and I kind of say that because when I saw that you took the position and you're part of the USGA now, I kind of had the Obama feeling a little bit. Oh, praise God, he is worthy. We got a black man in position and leadership that can.
Will was singing Amazing Grace.
Oh man, I had all the Negro national anthems. I had them all playing. But what I realized, again, things take time, and by you accepting this position, and brothers and sisters who are alike are so happy that you're in position, so we can really start to enforce change. What perception about you that you want to shift or reinforce for those who kind of think like me?
Yeah, this is so good, and I love your question. There are a couple of things I like to say, and I think these are really a reflection of how I've tried to live my life. Like, one, nothing changes if we always see ourselves as separate, right? So if we have just a black agenda or a white agenda, we can't be the best of ourselves as a country, as a city, as a community, or as a game. So, I've tried to live my life in a very inclusive way where, for me, I don't talk a lot about diversity and inclusion. I just live that way. So my friends, who my friends are, who my partners are, who my colleagues are, I've always just tried to kind of, bear hug my community and integrate myself into the community in a way that actually demonstrates to people, this is how I think life ought to be lived. But then I think there is also a high standard as an African American, as a black man, right? Like, I'm very proud to be a black man, but I'm even prouder to just be an American, Like, I want people to understand that those two things go together. So I'm not so fixated on only issues of race. I want to focus on issues of goodness, of justice, and the kind of broad appeal that appeals to all of us. Like, for me, it is my white friends that actually integrated me into the game of golf. It is my really close friends who are not people of color that had the patience to show me what the goodness in this game is like, to actually take me on golf trips when I was a 23 handicap. So it would be an affront to them if I just all of a sudden become only interested in, the black agenda in golf. However, for me, like, what is good for black people in golf is good for all of golf. My view,
That's fair.
My view is like I want this game to be open to all of us, because this game literally can make your life better. And if we're excluding one group of people, there's a lack of fairness there. Right? If we're excluding a community or making it very onerous for one community to enjoy and join the game of golf, we're really robbing all golfers. So everything gets better in your life when you're more inclusive and you include more people. Now, I will tell you, like, for me, those two things go hand in hand. So yes, I'm proud to be the first black president of the USGA, but I'm also wanting to indicate, like, to all of my friends who are also men of color, that I skipped no steps to get this job. Like, I'm not the president of the USGA because I'm black. I'm the president of the USGA because I was deeply interested in the mission of the USGA, and I was willing to actually play all the roles, make the sacrifice, and work my way up to this spot. Now, once you're in that spot, I think you have a moral obligation to share your experiences so that actually things open up. And generosity and gratitude go hand in hand, right? Yeah. So, like, when you're really grateful, like, I'm really grateful in the way that God has blessed me with this life experience. My mother was 9th grade educated. She was a cook at the country club. My father was an airline mechanic. To say I've had a regular, ordinary black life is like an understatement. So I'm really, grateful for how God has blessed my life and what he's allowed me to experience. And when you're grateful, you want to be generous. And when you're generous, you want to include and share with more people. So my nephews, my cousins, my little, homeboys in the community where I come from, I absolutely want them to experience some of this goodness because it's been so good for me. And that's the attitude I approach this with, right? Like, I go to volunteer down at my local muni. I want to give money to causes and to charity to include more kids of color in the game, because of the goodness that I have experienced in the game that I'd like to share with them. Does that make sense?
100%. But I'm gonna go a little deeper, and I'm gonna challenge you a bit. When you have a black kid who comes from a different clubhouse, and they're interested in becoming in the game of golf, and they understand that there's this diversity play that is happening, which is good, but there's also how can we make that young kid have an understanding what diversity feels like.
Yeah.
See what diversity looks like, but how can we make that one kid who, we see the all-inclusive, everybody, come and everybody's for everybody. We get it. But how can we get that one kid that's from the neighborhood, inner city of Atlanta, et cetera, to understand, okay, golf can be for me, but right now, it don't look like it's for me right now.
Yeah.
Not right now.
Yeah, I think there's a spiritual side of this. And I love the word challenge, because I do feel like we've got to build the kind of trust with each other that we can actually challenge based on different experiences. And challenge is a very positive word to me. So I love that notion of challenge. Like, look, here's my perspective on golf. For years and years and years, for generations, when I was in my 20s, we've been asking young kids of color to come to the game of golf.
True.
We've literally said, like, look, it would be great after school if you would leave your community and come down to the driving range that is not in your community and try to learn golf. We've had special programs where we actually take kids from this community and bring them to another community to try to integrate them into the game of golf. And when kids leave their community and come to our community, they're instantly uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable as a 20-something-year-old walking into a driving range, not knowing where my ball was going, coming over the top. I had that wicked slice. It's like, man, these guys sitting next to me, like I could literally hit them from this position, right? That is very uncomfortable. So we've been asking kids to come to the game of golf. And we're now at a time where I think the motivation is there, the empathy is there, that we need to now take the game of golf to the community instead of asking the community to come to the game. And that's a very slight shift. What this means for me is we need to build programs in the communities where kids live. Kids shouldn't have to experience all of the discomfort to actually, sort of get interested in the game. We need to take the game closer to where our kids are. One of the things you might notice at the US Open, we invested in the Maggie Hathaway golf course in South LA. We want to do more initiatives where we're actually bringing the game to the kids so that you have the experience and the comfort of your community, but you can have the curiosity to get involved with something that truly can change your life. And so my perspective is it's not an either or, it's a yes and. We want to meet the kids where they're at. We want to show them what golf has been for us, and we want to get them started on their journey in golf. And that means if kids don't have the right uniforms, if they don't, sort of have the exact kind of outfits, if they don't have the exact equipment, we meet them where they're at and we start to get them on that goodness. Look, everyone knows the first time you can remember, I can, all of us can, the first time you hit a club flush in the middle, the first time you hit it square on the sweet spot. Like, right at that moment when that thrill goes through your body, it's a little bit of a spiritual feeling that you will be a golfer for the rest of your life. We've got to give more kids in their community the fresh feeling of that thrill.
And I respect the statement. And I'm going to get a little messy here, Fred, because one thing, and we're talking about community, and I love that, with the alphabet soup of golf, you got the USGA, the RNA,
very confusing,
the PGA of America, the PGA Tour. You got the different grassroots, the first tee, the 18th green, all these damn places. How do you, as the president of USGA, I don't want to say govern, but how do you make sure that everybody's talking the same shit, Fred? Everybody's got grow the game. Let's get these kids or that kid. Everybody's got the same situation happening. How do you navigate all of the alphabet soup organizations, or is the USGA supposed to be like this leader and it's like, hey, PGA Tour, PGA of America, but you're the governing body, not the institution that's designed to teach the game. You're just supposed to steward the game and keep the courses up. Like, how does this work? Because I think it's so annoying as people that are trying to grow the game like Will and myself, and it seems everybody's on a different page.
Yeah, well, look, I think it's very frustrating if you're a golfer, the amount of fragmentation that exists in golf. I would say today that the organizations have never been closer in terms of relationships and also, mindset. But yes, each of these organizations play a defined and different role. And if we could wave a magic wand, these 5 distinctly different leadership organizations would all sort of roll up together into one. But, each organization has a focus. When I became president of USGA, my dad got up in his church and said, my son is going to take over the PGA Tour. I was like, no, Dad. I'm not taking over the PGA Tour. So your friends, even friends who are deeply involved.
Hey, Will, that's that proud black daddy too.
Even friends who are deeply involved in golf will be like, hey, I'm at the I see you here. You have the Farmers. I'm at the Farmers. Are you going to be there this weekend? It's like, no, that's the PGA Tour. We're the USGA. So it can be very frustrating, the fragmentation we have. But I will say this: we have a lot of collaboration going on in terms of the goodness of the game. Is it enough? Well, I think we need to do more. But I would not, be responsible if I did not point out all of the things we're working on together. Things like the first tee. The RNA and the USGA have a Latin American Amateur Championship that is meant to grow the game and to grow who plays the game. We have very targeted, programs that we invest in. Right now, the PGA of America and the USGA are investing in a program to teach golf leadership and golf management at 12 HBCUs, so that we actually endow programs where our African-American kids are hanging out, so that not only who plays the game, but who actually benefits from the leadership and the commerce in the game can change. Now, I recognize all these things are small things, and it's hard to measure the benefit over a 1 year, 2 year period. And this is where I think we have to have a little bit of an infinite game. We have to be willing to plant seeds to grow trees that we ourselves might not be able to stand under. We have to be willing to dig wells that we may not drink the water from. We have to have a longer term perspective of what needs to be invested, so that this change in the game is not a flash in the pan and not something that we got excited about after George Floyd that goes away. I would say in the past, we missed the Tiger boom, right? Remember, Tiger came along, boom, everything happened, and then the game really didn't change. And I would say we were sincere, like the people who led the game were sincere about inclusion and growth and change, but we weren't serious. When you're serious, you actually put your dollars down. You actually put your initiatives down. You actually write objectives and create strategies and plans that you're willing to measure over a long period of time, so that your sincerity is matched with seriousness. And what I can tell you is today, we're having a lot more thought about where do our dollars go in terms of the results we'd like to see. And you can expect to see the USGA invest millions and millions of dollars in programs to actually bring the game closer to our kids. This is not a Fred thing, by the way, because if it just is something that happens in the 3 years we have an African-American president, it'll go away in 3 years. These are things that all of my colleagues at the USGA are deeply interested in. So we want to be sincere, but we want to be serious. And when you see us building a small golf course in South LA, when you see us investing more in youth on course and first tee and all of these initiatives, where we can measure actually who is coming through the turnstiles and who is actually getting to experience the benefit of the program. When we're willing to measure it, we can manage to it. Now, let me say this. Over the pandemic, and I don't mean to run the clock out on you.
No, I love it.
No, this is good.
I feel like I like hearing this, because we hear all the bullshit talk, Fred. This is different. Like this, you can feel the sincerity.
But Fred, I'm going to say this. As being in the position that you're in, which is so great, because I say this saying all the time, you can't be what you don't see.
Yeah.
And seeing you does so many wonders for me. And I'm starting back nine of my career in my life, right? I'm not there yet, but I see the back nine coming.
No, I think you're just kind of coming. You're on hole number 7.
That might be it. That might be it.
Second shot, hole 7.
Right. Hey, how about this? I'm even with 5 birdies. So, but I say this is that what are some of the things that, again, you can't be what you don't see. I wish we could see more people of color, people who come from a different clubhouse, on the forefront when it comes to all things golf. Because I say it all the time. Back when I was a kid, I remember watching Brandy Seymour on a nationwide tour. I remember seeing Tim O'Neill playing nationwide events, and I was like, "Oh, I can be him. I can be her."
You had Ian Page in the booth, not the booth on Golf Channel. Ian Page, all of them, all of them were there. This is before Scott Porter, but Ian Page was back. I mean, early Golf Channel.
What are something USGA are doing that are putting these people in position to where they can be the role model for their community?
So there's a couple of things, right? Like one, first off, I agree with you. Like it's very aggressive when you don't see yourself, and let me just say this about golf before I go into my answer. Like this is about more than golf, because oftentimes in our cities and our communities, golf represents the tippity top of social structure. Golf represents the opportunity to actually, get civically and socially engaged in your community. Golf offers you the intimacy to build relationships that truly can change your life. So if we're not included in sort of the top of the social structure and the top of the civic structure in our communities, we're automatically editing ourselves out. And so this is about more than golf in many ways. This is about having the actual framework and the environment and the intimacy to build the relationships that can truly change your life. But when I say a lot of times, like this for me is sort of spiritual, because golf has changed my life, and it can change the lives of those who play. I also think it improves your life in the sense that even if, some of my greatest friends in golf are a generation older than me, and they're white guys. And we have lived our lives together because we walk the fairways. And I would like to say, as much as I've learned about life, they've learned something too. And so when we include each other in our lives, the game will get better, but everyone's lives gets better too. And so when I answer this question, that's the energy I'm bringing to this. This is not about the frivolity of a sport or a game.
Yeah.
It's about the way we want to live our life. It's important for kids to see themselves at the top of civic and societal structure. It's important for kids to actually have the opportunity, and when
Fred, I don't even think it's about just the kids in that regard.
Yeah.
Because I at this point in my life as a 38-year-old human being, like me seeing you also matters. Like I think golf in the industry, we say kids, right? We say two vague ass things, in my opinion. We say grow the game, which is super vague. Yeah. And we talk about the kids. Well, what about the kids that have grown up? I was a kid, but at the same time, I'm the only, other than Will, and no offense to you, Will, on a consistent basis, I'm the only black golf analyst that's consistently broadcasting stuff for the networks. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I've got nobody to talk to in golf to help me that looks like me that I'm comfortable to speak around. So I'm just saying, like, I love how we talk about
the next generation are going to have you. And
I respect that. It's one of those things where I think, like, kind of people in your seats, it also matters to Will and I to see you too, because I'm coming up behind you. I got time to be the president of USGA. I didn't even know that was an opportunity for black folks. So now it's like, hold on, now let me shift my focus. Sorry, I just want to put that in there.
No, that's fair. Look, that's fair. Like, look, I never want to underestimate my role in terms of inspiration and possibility. I want to always be available to do that. But I also feel like it's really important for me to actually give a part of like what motivates me in this role. So that, like, because my clarion call for our folks, if I were talking to my nephews, I would say, look, we have to be willing to be uncomfortable in order to get to the next spot. Like, it took living with some discomfort to actually get to this spot. And when you are behind in a race, you have to be willing to run faster. Okay. So that's the first part. The second part is, I think we have to put like our actions where our intentions are. So it doesn't matter if I intend, to have more inclusion in the game if I don't have action. I would say to people more often, don't tell me, show me. So when I think about the USGA, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you we have 3 African Americans on our 14-person executive committee.
I didn't know that.
We have started a program called the Pathways Program, where we bring 30 young African Americans, men and women, and Hispanic Americans to the U.S. Open and give them a 10-day internship so that they can shadow the president of the USGA and the CEO of the USGA and the broadcasters and experience what it looks like from the inside to conduct one of golf's greatest championships. Absolutely. We have actually mentored those kids to help them be placed in other internships and jobs in golf so that they can kind of keep growing their interest in the sport. I feel like for me, you have to have an all of the above approach. There is no one thing that can solve this. We have to actually take the game closer and make sure we have programs to involve hundreds of thousands of young kids from diverse backgrounds. We've got to find the kids in their 20s who are in college who are interested in golf now and bring them into the inner sanctum. We've got to actually make sure that our board looks like our country. We've got to make sure that we hire and include more people at the staff of the USGA. And I will tell you, the top recruiters of the USGA now, many of them are African Americans. We've got to go look for the young people where they're at. So instead of saying, oh, we went to University of Texas, no fault of that, that's where I went. We went to University of Texas, we didn't find that many African American candidates. I go, but you know what? There's a whole bunch of them at Howard University.
Absolutely. There's
a whole bunch of them at Prairie View at A&M University. So we've got to go find the kids where they're at and meet them where they're at. And then I think the final thing I would say we have to have a long view, and we cannot be aggressive against the past of what golf was. So what you would not hear from me is me talking a lot about what golf used to be, because golf was just a reflection of what America used to be.
Exactly.
But what I'm focused on is what America will be. And the future of America is a place where all of us are included. All of us are having a better life because we are all with each other. And that word "with" is important to me. So I make no distinction about the passion and the responsibility that I bear. But you know what? All of the white people at the USGA executive committee and management team, they also bear this responsibility.
I love
because it's aggressive when we make it the black guy's job. It's like, oh, now that you're here, solve this. It's like, this is everyone's job.
Absolutely.
And let me say this. I want to close with this. I care just as much that our young kids of color living in disadvantaged backgrounds get more exposure to golf because what golf can do in their life. And I also care that our poor Appalachian rural white kids who have never had exposure to golf also get exposure. Because if we bring all of these kids together, we're going to find that we have a more unified community. We have a more unified country. And I know of nothing else in this country that can bring people together the way golf can. So this is all of our job, and it's not just the black guy's job.
Yeah.
I would tell you, if you feel like a passion coming out of me on this, it's like
I love it. No,
it's literally what got me
needed.
No,
I just hear. I hear that he's going to give us. He's going to help us be on the broadcast for the U.S. Open.
Yeah,
that's what I heard him say.
That's what it
all
sounds
I heard.
like.
Okay.
Hey, but you know what, Fred? What I love is that you have to have reflection. You have to have reflection before we take any action, right? I mean, that's what a revolution is: reflection and have action. If you have action with no reflections, it's activism, and that ain't shit. So, I want to ask you this question, Fred. Because I saw the passion coming out. How close are you to setting your personal goal and reaching your personal peak and making that maximum impact?
Well, that's a very a vague question. It's kind of like, I want to live a life where I give as much as I can for as long as I can until I can no longer. I really don't write goals that have like full stop. I write goals that have commas. Like when I started playing golf at 38, I didn't even know what the USGA was. I literally, when I picked up a golf club, I did not know what the United States Golf Association was. When I became a 17 handicap and we broke ground at Trinity Forest, I did not know the difference between Los Angeles Country Club and Shinnecock.
Chester, Washington.
I'd never been to any of these places. Okay, that was 7 years ago. So sometimes your gifts and your passion and your interest can take you places you didn't even know existed. And what I would say to you is, for me, because I've had like a classic Horatio Alger American experience. We grew up where our lights were shut off, our water was turned off. I had no phone in my home because my brother went to college, ran up the phone bill, and my parents just couldn't pay it, wouldn't pay it. I grew up like most of my teenage years without a phone in my home. I've had that real rags to riches experience. And what I will tell you is this, and this is what most Americans, I feel, know in their heart, but we don't express. the people that I grew up with that were living check to check in my community in inner city Nassau, they want the same things that my friends that live in Highland Park, Texas, which is one of the more elite communities in our country. They want the same things out of their life. They want opportunities for their kids. They want to invest in safety and security. They want to have the dignity where they're treated with respect every day. The people that were over here want the same things out of life that the people over here want. Those people are very similar people. And until we have like the common framework and the common environments where these two peoples can meet and create a better life together, nothing is going to change in our country. And this is what I love about golf. If you walk the fairway with someone, I mean, even your caddy, you play with the same caddy every week, that guy's going to become one of your best friends. I took two of my caddies on a golf trip 3 months ago, and we had a blast. And, you know, it was fun for me because, you know, sometimes you take it for granted to watch them, caddies from one club, take them to another club, and you watch them experience the club from their point of view. And it was a complete joy for me to watch them and their eyes light up. And then we're having dinner, and one of them turns to me and says, you know, this is the first time I've been around golf for 20 years. This is the first time I've sat in the dining room and had dinner. Mm. It actually, for me, you know, it improves my life.
That's it. Yeah.
Because it teaches me the gratitude.
And that's the impact. That's the impact. That's the impact.
I'm just telling you, like, golf is great because it brings us together in a way that nothing else can. And what I'm saying to you is, race aside, experience aside, socioeconomics aside, the good people in the United States and the good people in the world all want the same thing. And we can experience that intimacy that allows us to build trust and build a relationship that truly allows us to do good things together. And this is what I love about golf. As a proud Black man married to a proud Black woman with 2 Black daughters, I want for them in America where they truly are going to be accepted and treated based on their potential, their skill, and what they have to offer, and not what they look like. So when my daughters walk through Dallas Country Club with braids down to their backside, I want no one to look at them as the Black members. I want them just to be the members. I don't want someone to look at me. Today, I have to tolerate that people will call me the Black president of the USGA. 20 years from now, I just want people to know that all I tried to be was a good president of the USGA. I did not want for myself the Wikipedia page that says he's the Black president of the USGA. I don't like that, and I don't want that. That is actually a slight on all of us and the work we've done. Right?
Will and I get the same thing. You know, we're the Black broadcasters, or we got the Black Golf podcast. Yeah. We you know, it's funny, and I'm not. I'll tell a quick story. You know, when Harold Varner got to the PGA Tour before the whole live thing, he would say, "I want to be Harold Varner. I don't want to be the Black guy on the PGA Tour." And it used to piss me off, Fred, like, because I was a little ignorant then about kind of how it worked, because I was like, "Come on, Harold, you one of us. Like, you out here for us. You Black, I'm Black. You supposed to be the Black dude." Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And as Will and I have grown in this broadcast and podcast space, you know, we don't want to be the Black Golf podcast. We don't want to be Black. Yeah. I don't want to just broadcast the Black Golf stuff, you know. But I do want to be involved in the conversations that include the Black stuff. If that makes sense? Yeah. I want to, you know, I want to make sure that Will and I, you know, I feel like Will and I are the boots on the ground. Like, especially Will. I mean, you know, Will helped start the Underrated tour, and his vision is being pulled into kids all over the country. Like, and it's just one of those things where I don't want the Underrated tour to be seen as the Black Junior Golf Tour, right? It's just the tour, and I want to keep the conversation moving because I found something interesting, and Kobe, you can splash it up because I want to talk a little bit about Chris Zambri as well as this U.S. national team that was kind of launched back in February. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm golf media. I missed this announcement. I don't know how, but here's the thing. I'm looking at the thing right here. It says February 24th, 2023. The USGA launches a U.S. National Golf Development Program. The USTA, Fred, has had something like this for years, that have had all kinds of men, women, Black, white, whatever Hispanic backgrounds. Why is golf so late in my opinion, or the USGA so late, whoever's responsible, why are they so late to the table with this U.S. Development program?
Yeah, that's a fair criticism. Like, a couple things. Who we used to be is not who we're going to be. And our opportunities today are different. Our interest is different because golf is different. I think you have to give a lot of credit to Mike Wan, our new CEO, who has also had a Horatio Alger type American life, grew up in Ohio, regular background, picked the range at his club as a kid, went all the way through a corporate career, then became the commissioner of the LPGA. And I think Mike could see how the Americans coming to professional golf all were coming from elite backgrounds, and that there was no one helping the regular kids who were on that journey to elite golf. And what happens, and I would quote Mike right now. Mike would say, at the beginning of the journey of golf, you find a lot more diversity than you find at the end in terms of the pipeline to elite golf. So if we went to the drive chip right now, the 7, 8, 9-year-olds, we would see a lot of kids of color. We'd see a lot of kids that come from different backgrounds because the cost and the barrier for entry at the beginning is less. But as you go down through that funnel, it takes more and more and more resources to play elite golf. Imagine graduating from college and trying to qualify 2-3 years. Someone has to sponsor you, pay your way, et cetera. So we lose a lot of kids along that journey, even the journey from 7, 8, 9-year-old to elite junior golf. So what Mike's experience allowed us to take a look and say, no one in this country ought to be barred from chasing the journey to elite golf because of lack of resources. And other countries have solved this problem with national development programs. And if not the USGA, who will? So I'm proud that we're going to invest. And this is, by the way, this is back to the point of sincerity, i.e. we sincerely want to see a change, versus seriousness. We're going to put millions and millions and millions, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars on the table over a long period of time so that no kid who has the propensity and talent to play golf is barred from playing golf because they lack the resources. And we're going to start small, maybe 50 kids, maybe 100 kids. Maybe we start with 50 girls. We're going to start where the biggest problem is, but then we're going to shoot a little bullet, then we're going to shoot cannonballs. And we're not going to make this a Mike Wan thing where it's like, oh, Mike is here for 5 years and he's passionate about it and then it goes away. We're going to embed this into the strategy of the USGA. We're going to endow it so it has the resources to exist forever. And then we're going to measure ourselves by how it changes. Like, no one, particularly an African-American, wants to sit on the dais and be asked about no black golfers at the U.S. Open. That's a question.
You knew I was coming with it. I had the gloves on.
That's a question I had to field. And I feel like it's such an unfair question for me. Here I am in my first year as the president of the USGA, as someone who's played golf for 11 years, with parents that put everything they had into me. And here I now get to sit on the stage for my first press conference. And then someone who doesn't look like me is going to ask me, how do I feel about no black players at the U.S. Open? As if the responsibility and the history was mine. And so what I would say to you, I was getting a little emotional there.
I feel you.
I'm with you.
30 years from now when I'm gone, 40 years from now when I'm gone, hopefully the person in that seat never has to answer that question because the work we're doing today. And that is the humility by which we need to approach these issues. We may not be around to receive the credit, but we all stand under trees that we didn't plant. And therefore, we should plant some trees for the next generation. And that's the work we're trying to do with our national development program. And I'll do you one more. As we invest millions, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars to make sure that all kids who have a propensity for playing golf have the resources they need to move through the elite golf, that is a move through the funnel move. You will also hear more and more from us about opening the funnel so that more kids who traditionally have not even found golf might find golf. And these are where our future elite players will come from, but very few. But this is where our future fans will come from. This is where our future broadcasters will come from. This is where our future club presidents will come from. This is where our future board members will come from. This is where the future of the game gets bigger. And here's what I will tell you. We should not rest on the COVID explosion. There is no doubt that golf has exploded during COVID. Going into golf, 20 to 25 million Americans identified themselves as golfers. Coming out of COVID, 40 million Americans now identify themselves as golfers. And that 15 million that showed up, 50% of that 15 million are diverse and women. So the very people we've been asking to come to the game are actually showing up in the game. Yeah. But the question is, are we going to bear hug them and let them know that there's absolutely a space and room in the game for them? Are we going to open up not only our minds, but are we going to open up our environments so that they feel included and welcome and wanted in this great game? This is the kind of things we're trying to do to make sure that it is not superficial, but it's sustainable. And we have to put our programs and our objectives to match our intentions, because I would say the intentions have been there for 20, 30 years. But what has not been there is the seriousness in terms of how we've invested, how we've measured, and how we've held ourselves accountable.
Well, I'm going to tell you right. Go ahead, Will. I'm sorry.
I was saying, and I love the fact that you made the mention to Mike Wan. It's not going to stop with him. And this is going to be past you, past me. And, I also got to give a shout out to your team. I know, and specifically Michael Cooper of the Worlds, Heather Daly Donfrio, who's helping recruit some of the kids for that program. And, I'm so happy to see what USGA is doing. Like I'm starting to see the call to action. I'm starting to see the motion being pushed forward. So I just kudos to you and thank you again.
Can I say something on that fact too? Let me just say this.
Go ahead, Fred.
Because we have this shared leadership, I'm very proud of what the USGA is doing, and we're going to keep pushing. We feel like we have an obligation to push, but I'm also proud of what the PGA of America is doing. I'm also proud of what the RNA is doing.
Yes.
I'm also proud of what the men and women at Augusta National doing. I'm proud of what the PGA Tour is doing. I'm proud of all of that. So here's the thing. We got to get out of this notion that because we have a shared leadership structure, we have to be happy for everyone. We have to collaborate where necessary, but we got to cheer them on. And so when I see the Masters announce that they're going to build a new golf course or restore a golf course in the African-American part of town in Augusta, I applaud them. And it makes me go back to the USGA and say, well, what are we doing like that? Let's do more of that. So we got to have a flywheel effect, which is a compounding of goodness, because we're cheering each other on. We're not competing on this, but that we're all like raising our game because everyone else is raising their game. So Seth Waugh and the PGA of America, love those guys. Love what they did down in South Florida with their new public course, primarily targeted for the young kids in that community. Palm Beach is really glitzy and nice, but Palm Beach Gardens has a lot of kids that look like you and me, and they can get better lives and better exposure from the game. So we have to have an all of the above approach. We need to root each other on. We need to actually stand by when it's our time to cheer, and then we need to take action when it's our time to act. And what I would say to you is, one of the things I love about the USGA is we have the power to convene, to literally pull people together, and to hopefully allow people, a vantage point, to use their resources. We also have the power to inspire because we literally have the resources, and I think we have the attitudes with Mike Wan's leadership, with a really engaged management team, and with a board that cares about this to really, lead the way. And so I'm proud of what everyone's doing, not just what the USGA is doing.
That is so true.
Hey, Will, I'm going to tell Fred, I'm going to tell you right now, with all this U.S. national team investment and guys like me and Will, I've never wanted to ask for reparations from any organization in my life. But, Fred, I'm going to need to be paid because y'all so damn late in my life and experience. I'm gonna need to be paid.
Hey, we got a broadcast. Hey, look, we got a broadcast. I don't know how we're gonna get it. I think we know somebody, but we got a broadcast to prepare for next year. The U.S.
So, in
our backyard.
And I'm gonna say this, Fred, because here's another step to grow in the game of golf. Because I know the power of club membership.
Yeah.
And this is my advice to USGA, and I'll leave you with this. I also believe that there should be a program or an opportunity for people like me and Will, who are kind of like mid-executive level in our life, to be able to afford a damn place to play golf. Like, I live in Scottsdale, Phoenix, Arizona. The lowest membership you can get at a mid-tier club is $70,000 initiation.
Yeah.
$70,000. I ain't got it, cuz. I'm gonna tell you right now, Fred, I ain't got it. So I would love to be able to as we're in this point in our career, I also think there's an opportunity that's going to come and a reckoning that's going to come in the game of golf where people that are kind of in me and Will's level, we still can't afford to do the very damn thing that we love to do yet. So
Yeah.
we got to address, I don't know if it's a USGA, PGA Tour, local affiliates. I don't know whose job it is, but at some point, I got to find some more money so I can be a member somewhere.
Hey, Doug, and I still to this day, I'll pay at the public courses, but I play 17 holes at the private courses.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. You know, there's a couple of things and again, I put this in the we can learn from each other category. So I was over at St. Andrews for the Walker Cup. Kudos to the RNA; they were great hosts. Though we had to bring that trophy home, you know, we got, I mean, like we didn't. Hey man, listen,
you won U.S. Mid-Am too. Again,
we're still competitors, and kudos to Stu Hagestad who went 2-1 in the Walker Cup, and then also followed up next week with a Mid-Am win. I will tell you that when you go over to the UK, you can see a kind of inclusion in elite golf that is apparent, and it's apparent why they have a better chance at making ordinary people into extraordinary golfers than we do. If you go at the top of the U.S. Open and the top of the Masters and the British Open and PGA Championship, you will find that a lot of the American golfers who get to the top of the leaderboard did come from very elite golf backgrounds, country club backgrounds.
So would you say that's who you're modeling the program after?
Yeah, well, I would just say we're learning, so we're curious. But you go to the old course, any kid can kind of come and play the old course or the new course or go over to the Links, the Links Trust practice facility. Like these very elite places in golf are open to all kids. So I think we're trying to, we don't have a solution yet, but we're curious. I will tell you, the way I got into this crazy world of golf, I had, 4 members at Trinity Forest here in Dallas that invited me in to be a part of the leadership. To build that club in 2014, we broke ground, and that's where my crazy spiral into golf started. And so I joined these 4 guys who were very steeped in golf because of my experience as an architect and builder, and that was my foray into golf. But one of the things I'm really proud of Trinity Forest, to put that hat on for a second, where I've been a part of the leadership. One, while building this elite club, we also built a first tee center. So that the back of our range, there's a par 3 course and a driving range and a clubhouse building only for the first tee of Dallas. And then, we made our club available every Monday at a very nominal rate so that the best charities in Dallas can rent our course and raise money to help all of the nonprofits in Dallas. And we make it really available for them. We attracted SMU so that they could host their golf program there. And and then
see that ain't helping me with my membership.
But listen to this. Then the 4th thing we did is we established an ambassador program. We established an ambassador program so that elite young golfers who finish college can have a membership at no cost so that they can continue to hone their skills. And so out of that program, we have 20 young people that get a membership every year. They can apply to the club, and they get a membership at no cost, where their only responsibility is they have to play with the hack members like me, but they get to use the club. When, by the way, who's not there from 9 in the morning till 5 in the evening, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? The members. So they get to have the run of the place and to continue to hone their skills in golf at a very nominal charge. And so out of that program, we've turned out 3 or 4, PGA Tour professionals with a card. And in addition to having Jordan Spieth, that program also was responsible for Harry Higgs and Austin Smotherman, and Tom Kim now is a member. We also had Brandon Wu all come through that program. But what I will say is today, when I go and I see the ambassadors, 10 men, 10 women, 3 of our current ambassadors are African American, and so we're giving young kids who want to continue to pursue elite golf a place to play. So I think it's going to take way showing, where we have to show people, based on different programs, what we can do. And I think every club, if their intention, can have a program that works for them. I'm not saying the Trinity Forest model works for every club, but if every club got serious about this, we could have some way to share, our club with the community. And that's one thing that I think we have to continue to have a open dialogue about. We have to have an open attitude about. everyone will have their own way. But when we fling these gates open and we welcome more people in, everything gets better for the people we welcomed in, but it really gets better for the people who are actually in the club. And so that's kind of part of what we're trying to preach as well.
Well, Fred, I know you got a lot of things to do today, and we've gone longer than Will and I had intended. But I'm glad.
Edit some of this out.
No, we're gonna leave it in. I think people need to hear a lot of this.
Yeah,
we may edit
100%.
some of your response links, but I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
We call that running out the clock. Like unfortunately, I grew up in a black church, man. I know how to run the clock.
I felt the Southern Baptistness to it. Like, I don't know if it was AME, Pentecost. I don't know what it was, but I felt. Bro, I felt
man,
it. Yeah,
I felt Bishop in there somewhere. I felt
that's Deacon Fred right there.
Yeah, something using the pulpit. Something. You knew something about something.
Hey, Will, let's send Fred out of here the only way that we know how.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
We ain't talking about hymns.
We call it Rap Foursome right here, Beyond the Fairway podcast, Golf Channel, NBC Sports. So I am so happy to ask you this question. You are going to go play golf with 4 rappers.
Oh.
Dead or alive. They don't have to play golf, right? It's more or less just, who you want to kind of hang out with for 4 hours. So, President of the USGA, Freddie P., who are you pulling up to the golf course with?
Well, listen, man, this is a very easy response for me because I grew up in, I came of age in the early 90s. So, I'm going to say first person in my golf cart, he's riding with me. So we got a foursome and we're taking carts out. Next to me in my cart is Tupac, man, because in addition to all of the histrionics, if you saw past his lyrics, there was a consciousness about our responsibility as African Americans and the responsibility of the community. There was absolutely a challenge that Tupac was trying to put down relative to the structure, the system, and then our role. I got to take my man Hova with me because
that's right.
Because I think Jay-Z talks. If he were a preacher, he would be preaching prosperity gospel.
Yes, Creflo Dollar.
I think my white friends sometimes don't understand the role of prosperity gospel in the black community. Like you say, well, how can you go to church where the pastor drives a Rolls Royce? It's like, you know what? This country hasn't always been good to us. We need to see some people in our community, irrespective of where they come from, achieve everything. And that was instructive for me growing up. I loved it. And Jay-Z is kind of the prosperity gospel preacher of rap. He's going to tell us that you too can be a CEO. And
that's it.
I've been a CEO for 11 years, but I've been listening to Jay-Z for 30. So, I love that. Roll with me. And then look, man, I have to tell you that like one of the things I love about the culture and being a part of the culture is just the entertainment, man. Like, I hope you express one thing and your viewers feel one thing. Like, I'm not a guy that started my life on third base. I'm a guy, my mom cooked at a country club. My dad was a mechanic. I had a brother that I lost through street violence. Like, I have lived a experience that is authentically, like our community, like the kids we're trying to reach, right?
Absolutely.
And what I love about our culture, though, is we can take all that pain and we can take all that suffering and sorrow and still find ways to smile and to entertain and to get over that. So I got to take my man Biggie with me.
I knew I was about to guess.
Because Biggie's going to tell you all those stories, and he's going to tell you that all that tough stuff you went through, on the other side of that is still joy and still happiness. And so
you got one more. One more.
Is a 5-some?
No, yes, it's Rap Foursome. So it's the Rap Foursome. You playing a 5-ball.
Oh.
So you got one more.
Well,
Tupac, Jay-Z, Biggie, Smalls.
Yeah. Well, I got to do something for the current kids, man. Like, so I became a CEO at 38, and
you say drink, I'm hanging up.
I became a CEO at 38, and it was very tough because I was taking over a company where the previous CEO had done very well, and his family's name was on the door. So I had to find a lot of encouragement every morning, to kind of walk into the office with a lot of confidence as a 30-year-old brother. And so I had to remind myself that we started from the bottom, but now
we're here.
We started from the bottom, but we got the whole team here.
I like it. Okay. All right.
I got to put my man Drake in there because
I knew it was coming. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it.
That was my ringtone every morning, and it was a reminder that even though you started here, when you get there, don't forget that when you get there, you got to bring the whole team.
I love it.
You got to bring the whole team here.
So we got Aubrey Graham, Christopher Wallace, and Sean Carter and Tupac as Mr. Fred's Foursome. You know,
That's
one thing,
what's up, man.
One thing you did say that was kind of dope is that you just said like one thing about culture. Paraphrase you, we turn lemons into lemonade, and with that being said, we also set trends, and we may not always get the residuals for it, but we set trends. Yeah. So I love it.
No, man, I want to really thank you all for what you're doing too, man. Like when I got engaged in golf, I couldn't find people like you. But 10 years later, the people getting engaged today have you. And, beyond the fairway, as with many other things, in golf, will make it cool, acceptable, and totally palatable for kids that look like us. And I want to thank you all for everything you're doing because it's going to take all of us. And when we all lean in and we keep challenging each other, I am sure that this game will get better, but the lives of the people that play the game will also get better too. So thank you guys, man.